Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Asexualize My Asexual Life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality. So subscribe and hit the bell icon right now. So yes, this is with sound, people. Talk to me in the comments and let me know if you can hear me. So I just did a reaction video to my interview with James Miller about my asexual life, and I didn't realize there was no sound. So now I'm doing the other one with the sound. So we're going to watch it together. It's on YouTube. So let's go, people. Can you see it okay? Are we good? All the sound. I can see me.
My guest today is Sandra Bellamy, who's an asexual person who has her own show where she helps other asexuals with love, life, confidence, dating, and relationships so they can truly live a fulfilled life. In today's episode, Sandra talks to us about what it means to be asexual in a world that constantly promotes sex. Welcome to Lifeology.
Hello, James. It's lovely to see you.
It is nice to meet you again. I actually met you through Blue Talks, which is with my friend Corey Poirier. So anyone who wants to do a TED Talk that has been turned down or wants to do it, simply go to bluetalks.com and tell them I sent you there, James Miller, with Lifeology. So Sandra, you were actually in one of the pitch sessions that was the individuals that were working with Corey who were able to pitch yourself to me and to other show hosts as well. So thank you. It was really nice to meet you. Well, when you pitched us, it was interesting. You started talking about asexuality, and I have an idea what that means, but when you started to talk more about it, I realized I really don't have any idea of what that means to be asexual. What does that mean?
Okay, so asexuality is a sexual orientation that's based on the lack of sexual attraction. So to put it in context for me personally, it means I don't get the need, urge, or want for partnered sexual intercourse. So I don't look at a guy and think, I want sex with you. My brain's not wired that way. And even if I have other attractions for guys, like aesthetic attraction, romantic attraction, I'm kissing, it doesn't make me want sex.
Interesting. Okay. Now that's something where a lot of times people there's a lot of misnomers and really rude concepts about that. Sometimes people say, and I say this, what I've heard and what I've worked with before, which is I don't think this is true at all. A lot of times people will say if someone's asexual, it's because no one wants to have sex with them, or they have fear that they would perform well. How do you dispel that? Because one stuff that's very disrespectful. But have you ever heard something like that before?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an asexual that's had sex in the past, so that might be very interesting for your listeners.
That would be interesting.
And some people think someone's asexual just because they haven't had sex, or they can't get sex, or they haven't had good sex. I've had good sex and bad sex in the past before I realized I'm asexual. And I would like it to be taken seriously that some people just don't get the one urge or need for partnered sexual intercourse. And the lack of sexual attraction is not the same as a lack of action. So some asexual participate in sex, some like me who's sex repulsed these days do not. So I think it's very dismissive when people say stuff like that and they just don't understand. It's not trauma based. So I have had sexual trauma, I'll be honest with you, but I've had sex after the sexual trauma. So it didn't, I'm not that bothered about it. I don't want to say minimize other people's experience, but I just put it down to a bad incident in my life and moved on with my life. So if I wanted to have sex, I would, but I just really don't want it. I'm into kissing big time.
Yeah, in the LGBTQIA, that A stands for asexual. When you were growing up, did you feel different from the other children your age when it comes to them talking about sex and all that as well?
Well, I thought I was heterosexual for years, and I had my first heterosexual boyfriend at 6 years old. But at that time, yeah, it's really young. At that time, looking back now, I can understand that I was always asexual, born asexual, but didn't realize it. So at 6 years old, my boyfriend at the time was kissing me passionately. He was the same age as me. And he wanted to do what people would call a sexual exploration. But for me, I felt very invaded. I lacked self-love back then. So I let him do that. And I felt guilty for years and really bad. And then at 15, something happened, which was one of those bad incidents I spoke about. And the guy opened a drawer and showed me a condom. And I'm just like, that's nice, because I thought it was a nice object for him to have. I didn't associate with me, didn't think about having sex with him. and then he tried to have sex against my will, basically. So that wasn't good. I got out of it by physically stopping him.
Sure.
But you know, I never thought about sex, and 16 I was pressurized into having sex, and I did it to keep my boyfriend. So when I was doing it, it was kind of all for the wrong reasons, and not because I really wanted to, not because I was really into it. And when my boyfriend, like my last long-term boyfriend, when he wanted to have sex with me, he would come up behind me when I was washing up, touch me, and then try to instigate sex. And I was rather interested in the washing up more than that. And I hate washing up. So you can tell that my brain is just not wired that way.
I really appreciate you saying the difference between, you know, the being asexual and heterosexual, because we know there's many different types of sexuality. So I really appreciate the fact that you normalize that, because for some people, they think asexual, then they think, you know, there's no attraction at all, which we know there's some specifics that are, but to hear that you would prefer, it sounds like, if you were to have it, that'd be heterosexual as well. I really appreciate, once again, the distinction between that, because it is important to know that it is a specific sexuality as well. And I don't think a lot of people understand that asexuality is that specific sexual orientation.
Yeah.
What are the different types of subtypes of an asexual person?
So I'm going to try and keep this as simple as possible for your listeners. There's two main categories of asexuals, if you like. The pure asexuals that don't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever. So they're like me. They don't look at someone and think, I want sex with you. And then they're the grey asexuals. So the grey asexuals only experience sexual attraction in the limited, rare, or specific circumstances, or they experience it but not enough to want to act on it. And in these two categories, the pure asexuals and the grey asexuals, there's loads of subcategories of asexuals, including on the grey asexual end of the spectrum, something called demisexuals, who can only experience a sexual attraction when a deep emotional bond has been formed, is usually maintained and sustained. So they have to have the bond before they can experience sexual attraction, which is different to a heterosexual, for example, who might have that as their preference. They might want the emotional connection versus a preference, because asexuality isn't a preference and it isn't a choice, which is an important distinction to make.
I appreciate that. Just like being gay or homosexual, that is not a choice as well. That is something where it is interesting. I'm sure many people who are asexual don't know that they are, or haven't put a name to it. I'm sure that can feel very lonely and very isolating at times. What is or how did you specifically, once you realized it, what did you do to help to understand more about who and what you are?
So I found out I'm asexual, shockingly, through an NHS counsellor in the UK, telling me that I would have to have sex in order to keep a good guy. I was absolutely horrified. I told this counsellor that I don't want sex. The expectation of sex at the end of the night of a date was making me almost wet myself. And that's how bad it felt. And it got to the stage where I thought I wouldn't be able to date anymore, ever have a relationship. So I was going to be alone. So then I told the counsellor my thoughts and feelings, that I only like romance and kissing. And that's when she said she was worried about me, because I'd have to have sex in order to keep a good guy. I was horrified, and that forced me, if you like, pushed me, everything happens for a reason, into the fact that I went home and Googled, I love kissing but not sex, and they came to asexuality.org, which is the biggest online forum for asexuals. So I joined that. Then I went on asexualitic.com, which is a dating website, joined that. And then I joined Facebook groups for asexuals, and I run 6 of my own Facebook groups for asexuals, 3 of which are dating. Yeah. So that's what I did to help myself, and organized asexual meetups as well in person.
That's fantastic. You know, I'm sure, because I was thinking about this before the show, and I was like, well, does she go on dates, etc.? So I mean, to hear that, yes, you can, of course you can date. And I said that out of ignorance, not out of anything else. But so I'm glad you're teaching me about this as well. So to realize that, you know, okay, so you can go on dates, and the furthest you would go is kissing. For different people, it's different things. How do they, as a scientist in me, the behavioral scientist, how do you measure or quantify a deep emotional connection? Is it something that the person would feel? I mean, I like to look at metrics and ways to measure things. And if you can't, you can't, which I think it'd be hard to measure. Are there specific ways in which people know? I'm just saying this more from a curious standpoint, not from anything else.
What, how about, you said about romantic attraction was your question?
Yeah. So the aspect you were talking about, the demisexuals, they have to have a deep connection, and so there are different aspects of asexual people. Like for you, you go as far as kissing.
Oh,
Everyone has their
yes.
different version of
Yeah.
what that is.
Okay.
How are they able to measure that within themselves to say this means this is what a deep connection means? This kissing, I know that's as far as I go. Does everyone have their own specific limitation? I don't say limitations, guidelines.
So every asexual is different, and I should say there's different types of asexual. So I'm a heteromantic, just attracted to guys romantically. Okay. You can get biromantics, attracted to two genders romantically, panromantic, attracted to multiple genders romantically. And so for asexuals, usually we love through a deep emotional connection rather than physical. So that's our main way we love. And we can have different degrees of physicality. For me, I absolutely love kissing. I'm a hyper-romantic and a hyper-kisser, which is very rare for the world population, let alone asexual. So a lot of asexuals, they prefer cuddling to kissing, the majority. And some of them might, some of them are touch adverse as well. They don't like any touching, but more grey asexual. So they're on the more sexual end of the asexual spectrum. They're the ones that would tend to be more sex positive and maybe engage in sexual activity. And some of them don't mind it, and some of them enjoy it as an activity to do. So the emotional connection is usually a lot of the time through talking and having shared hobbies and interests and commonalities and communication, those really good things. And then the physicality for asexuals is more like they're doing it as a way of physically connecting to a heterosexual partner, or it could be, someone who's gay or lesbian. And you can be any gender, by the way. If you're asexual, there's no gender limit as well, because some people mix asexuality up with gender. They mix asexuality with celibacy. It's not the same as celibacy. I'm not abstaining. I don't get those sexual urges. So when I'm on a date, the guy's like, I'm kissing him. Last date, well, it wasn't a date. I met a guy in a club. I was kissing him for over 4 hours, which is a heck of a lot. And he's like,
good for you.
He's like, and he's like, why? What are you doing to hold the feelings in? Like, how are you controlling yourself? I don't have anything to control. So I'm not restricting myself. Like celibates restrict themselves. They stop the urges, or they stop themselves from doing stuff. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. I'm totally blown away. I mean, as I said, I knew some of these things, but there's a whole other world out there. I mean, I'm ignorant in so many things, and so I know my viewers and listeners right now are like, oh my gosh, because it's so important that everyone knows that not everybody fits in the same category, same box as everybody else. Just because the gender may look the same, or sexuality may look the same, it doesn't mean that everyone has the same desires. And so to hear that there's a whole other wonderful group of wonderful people out there who have their own interests, their own desires, their own likes, dislikes, and emotional connections, I think it's wonderful and inspiring to hear. Now, you were saying that you for the dating websites, how does an asexual go about dating?
This is really difficult. So I'm on, for example, at the moment when I'm talking to you, I'm on Facebook dating and Badoo.com. So Badoo's got an actual category for asexuals, but you cannot filter by asexual, which is really bad. So you can't look for other asexuals. So I've only come across 8 people so far on the asexual spectrum, most of which are on the more sexual end of the spectrum. So a lot of them still want to participate in sex, for example. And so an asexual can go on there, but I'd recommend to write in your bio that you're asexual. But a lot of the time they ignore it. Heterosexuals ignore the fact you write in your bio you're asexual, or they don't even see it. I get loads of guys liking me, loads of guys in my inbox wanting sex with me, and loads of guys, they just don't read my bio. They're in a conversation and they'll ask me questions that I've already answered in the bio. I'm like, well, you didn't read my bio then. And so I put up front who I am, like about that I'm asexual, not interested in sex. I personally don't want marriage. I don't want kids. I like living separately, even in a relationship. I'm very crystal clear. But, then you have to take into account the fact that a lot of them don't read it. A lot of them are looking for hookups. So a lot of
Yeah.
the time it's not so suitable. So trying to find groups like meetup.com, they have some asexual groups, or just general activity groups like artwork or singing or reading books. Some of those clubs can be better for asexuals to be on than traditional dating sites, because most people on dating sites want sex. I've been searching for the right guy since 2014. We're now in 2023. So I haven't found the right guy for me yet. But there are a couple of asexual couples I know that are married, one of whom found their partner at asexual meetup. So you can, asexuals can marry other asexuals, as well as some of them marry, you know, sexuals, if you like.
Sure. Yeah. Having to weed through all the nonsense, how do you keep up your positivity and your optimism when it comes to dating?
I love being asexual, so I have to say that. So I think every
Good.
opportunity to educate people about asexuality, even on a dating app, is really good. It is difficult, but I believe my asexual soulmate's out there somewhere. And so I'm kind of very spiritual. And so I believe my soulmate's Indian from a past life. And so it's driven me to do things I wouldn't usually do and get out of my comfort zone. So I've been to Bollywood events, like dance parties in my city, for example. And I approached lots of Indian guys online. I have had dates, so I've been on dates, but it's very difficult because they've lied to me. They've said they're all right about my asexuality. Then they've said, when I've met them, well, one guy said, oh, well, my family wouldn't actually approve of you being asexual, and my community wouldn't have approved. So they don't want to be seen with an asexual girl. It's dreadful. And because I'm quite famous in the asexual community, if it's an asexual guy, a lot of the time they're not out about being asexual. So they don't want to be seen public with an asexual girl, because they want to keep it quiet. So, but yeah, they're not out. A lot of them are underground, if you like they don't come out as asexual. They don't want people to know, because they fear ridicule.
Walk me through that. Walk me through that, because I mean, I can understand, you know, if people are coming out as being gay, I can understand, you know, some of that. But walk me through the aspects of the shame, or I'm using the word shame, I don't know if that's would be appropriate, but the reasons why someone would not want to come out like that.
Yeah, so some people get told it's unnatural to be asexual. There's something mentally wrong with them. There's something physically wrong with them. You just haven't had sex with the right person yet. Try me. Like, when are you going to get a boyfriend? When are you going to give me children, or get a girlfriend, or get a partner? And so there's lots of societal expectations, lots of family expectations. And if you're not the normal heterosexual person, I say normal because nothing's really normal, you can be your beautiful, unique self, then, you know, people, like families, can turn against some of them, like, because they don't understand it, they're uncomfortable with it. And some people frown upon them, thinking, you know, I just don't understand you. So they'll try and fix the asexual, thinking there's something wrong with us. And sometimes if they've got sexual friends that talk a lot about sex, they'll feel like left out in those conversations, and they feel that if they admit the truth of who they are, then their friends will leave them. And some do. Some, when they find out they're asexual, some people leave them. Yeah, it's dreadful. You know.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I guess I don't know. It's surprising to me, and once again, I say this in a vacuum because I don't live their life. But I don't understand why I would not be friends with someone who's asexual. What does that have to do with me? I don't understand. I just don't understand that.
Yeah, they're so uncomfortable with what's different to them, I guess, and they fear it.
Sure.
That they don't relate to it, and they think you're weird or something. But I love being different, so I'm okay with weird if they want to call me that.
Anyway. You know, I really appreciate you once again being on the show, because you are demystifying and debunking a lot of different myths about individuals. And so, you know, as I said, I know many people don't know what it means to be asexual, and that it is a sexual orientation. It's not a choice. It's how you're born. What would you say for those individuals who maybe are listening now, and they probably have their own, that sounds familiar to me? What advice would you give them?
Come and see me. Contact me. But also I would say come to terms with it yourself. So it took me about 3 weeks to come to terms with my own asexuality. It's good to look at forums and different groups and things, and try and find out, like, as much information about asexuality as you can, the different types of asexual, to see where you fit in, because this will give you a sense of place more within the community. you don't have to label yourself. You can just be curious and think, I'm learning about this. But the sooner you learn about how you are in terms of asexuality, the better, because you'll be stronger to talk to other people. So when I first found out as asexual, I was very weak. It took me about 3 weeks to research it fully. And so the first people I told, if you like, well, the first person I told, other than my parents, when I was walking home, the person's like, oh, but you're always talking about guys, you love guys, she didn't believe me, but I was weak. I said, I think I'm asexual. So if someone is just coming to asexuality, the best thing to do is to read up about it, try and discover what type of asexual you might be, so that you can feel stronger. Talk to the people who you trust, like the friends that are not going to mock you or ridicule you for not liking sex, and join some groups and things like that, so that you can become stronger when you come out to other people and sit down and have a proper conversation. Just say, if you don't like sex, just say, I don't feel the same way as other people. I don't like sex. I'm not into it. So I think it's all about researching, understanding yourself, learning about it, and accepting you're beautiful, even if you're asexual, because you're different, and different's beautiful. We don't all want to be the same in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's important. When you can put a name to something or a label to something, it takes away the power of how great this quote struggle is. And so I really appreciate you saying that, as far as having people research, because once they can put a name to it, kind of figure out maybe the different category or subcategory that they are, I'm sure that makes a lot more sense to people. Now, you were talking about the different forums that you're a part of. I'm assuming they're global, they're national, they're international forums as well, that many people can find support?
Yeah, asexuality.org, which I don't own. It's got nothing to do with me other than I'm on there. That's the biggest online forum for asexuals, and David J founded that. So that's where it all kind of started online, and then people can buy books on Amazon of asexuality. They can join groups on Facebook and stuff like that. So I have 6 groups, and I'm active in those groups. We talk a lot in my groups about hobbies and interests, so it's not just all about asexuality. I share my videos in there to educate them about growing in confidence, dating, relationships, love, self-love. I'm big on as well. So we talk about a lot of hobbies and interests, share photographs and stuff like that. So it's very much like not talking about sex a lot of the time, do you know what I mean? Because we're talking about other things, but it provides a sense of community, a sense of belonging, a sense of being part of something bigger than you are, and knowing that other people are around you who care about you, who understand you. And so I'd really urge people to get into those groups. Some people aren't on Facebook, so there's groups on Discord, Reddit have subreddits and stuff on asexuality. Obviously YouTube channel, should be part of a YouTube community. So I'd really say reach out, be part of an online community, because some people don't see asexuals in real life, if you like. It's very hard to come. I was kind of spread all around, but all these things are universal. You can, all the groups and forums and stuff, you can get them all around the world. You just type in Facebook, like asexual groups, and a load should pop up, and some will be relevant to your specific area, and others will just be global.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, that's great information for everyone to have. I guess I'm coming back to the whole, in my own life, I mean, we've all had struggles, but I'm still kind of flabbergasted. And once again, I say this in a vacuum, that people would be upset or disown a friend or a family member because they're asexual. It just blows my mind. I mean, I know what happens. And once again, I say this out of ignorance, because it has happened to many people, but I'm hopeful that my viewers and listeners who are listening, that is not something you would do, because once again, it has nothing to do with you. And we're all fearfully and wonderfully made. We all have great, wonderful opportunities in life. We have so many things going for us. And so hopefully, to hear that someone else's sexual identity is different than yours does not mean that they're any different than you. So we're wrapping up here. Sandra, Bellamy, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on my show. You have so much information. Definitely want my viewers and listeners to go to your Facebook groups, which you can feel free to give. Is there anything else you may have? I know they can find on your website. So where will they find all this information online?
Yeah, so asexualize.com is my website, and Asexualize My Asexual Life is my main YouTube channel. And they can contact me asexualize@gmail.com. And then on Facebook, the best one to do is probably find Asexual Friends first of all. But I also have Asexual No Sex Dating Group and things like that as well. But Asexual Friends, they could come through first. So yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, my viewers and listeners also know that if you can't find this information any other place, simply go to the show notes at jamesmiller@lifeology.com. I'll have Sandra's information there. All of the Facebook groups, the YouTube, everything else will be packaged in that show notes. So if you have any questions, feel free once again to go to jamesmiller@lifeology.com, and I'll have all the information there for you. Sandra, thank you so much for your wonderful guest. I truly appreciate your conversation, your insight, your wisdom. It was very insightful for me. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow. I thought that was amazing. What did you think, people? Woohoo! This is cool, is it not? So yes, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching my interview with James Miller. Lifeology is on so much. So let me switch to James's page. So this is James, who I had the interview with, James Miller, Lifeology Radio. And so as well as this being on YouTube, it's on all these radio stations. So if we look on here, it's on lots of radio stations, plus it's on all these podcasts and things. It's on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Android, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Blueberry, Savan. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. Podchaser, Ghana, Podcast Index by email, Tunel, Diesel. No, not Diesel, Deezer. I said Diesel. Angami and RSS feed, but it's on like loads of others here. So it's got my YouTube channels and Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram in the show notes. I am the published author of Asexual Perspectives. This is a best-selling book. I wasn't allowed to actually talk about this book in the interview because it was known as a non-publicity interview, so it was information only to help asexuals. But this is my book, which you can get on Amazon. It is a best-selling book. So just type in Asexual Perspectives, 47 asexual stories. I don't know if you can see that because it kind of blurs it out on how I've got it. But yeah, Asexual Perspectives, 47 asexual stories. Just type it in Amazon. I'm also the author of Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook, which is autobiographical, Ace Fiber Girl. So you can get that on Amazon as well. But yeah, so let's go back to James's page. So I've got his book. This is James's book. I recommend. It's a really good book. Life Lessons. You're an expert on your life. It's a workbook. I haven't finished it yet. So when you're feeling like down or got difficult emotions going on, you can actually go to his book when you buy the book, and you can fill in different sections, and it's reminding yourself of how you've overcome those challenges in life before, like what things you did, and then you've got like a template for going forward with your life much more positively. He's really good. He's a psychologist. He's been practicing psychology for 25 years, but now he's a radio show host. So and he owns like Red Heifer Media. So yeah, it's really good. So all these different things are amazing. And also it talks about, you know, more and more about James on all these different pages here. So what's really good about this is Lifeology Radio has a current listenership of 3.5 million people. We're talking million here, listeners per episode. So this is absolutely incredible for asexuals. You know, the fact that this episode should reach at least 3.5 million people worldwide means this is just for like the listenership per episode. So there's going to be more people that come across this. This is huge for asexuality. I mean, this is literally helping me fulfill my mission to help you, which is getting asexuality recognized as a sexual orientation in its own right globally, so no asexual has to live in fear of ridicule ever again. You know, this is my life mission. And so by getting it onto the James Miller show and being able to talk openly and honestly about asexuality and people seeing different nuances with it, it just means it's so good for getting asexuality recognized and being taken seriously as a legitimate sexual orientation. James himself is part of LGBT community. He has a male partner. So I didn't know that till after the show. He is amazing. Really, really lovely interviewer. Very considerate. I thought his questioning was amazing. I really loved talking to him. He's so nice to talk to. And I think that's one of the best interviews, probably if not the best interview I've ever done. I don't know what your thoughts and feelings were, but I thought it was a really good interview. I thought it got a lot of cross really well in a very short space of time. I seem to have talked about a lot the uncut version, which you saw there. It's about 25 minutes long, but it felt like it was longer, you know, because James got a lot of information out of me. And I love the fact he touched on dating quite a bit, because it is hard when you're asexual trying to date. You know, there is a lot of stigma as well about asexuality. You know, I've had people in my groups and people I've known saying they've lost friends, or they've got a friend who just doesn't understand, is not nice about their asexuality. You know, and that struggle is real for some asexuals. I'm very blessed in the sense that my parents accept my asexuality, but I'm a very strong person. So whether I accepted it or not, I'd still be asexual, obviously, because I can't change my sexual orientation. But I'd also be very open still about my asexuality. I think in the past, sometimes my parents got a little bit fed up about how much I talk about asexuality, but my dad does watch my channel secretly. So yeah, I found him, subscribed to it one day, and I was round at their place. It's funny. But hello, Dad, lots of love, and Mum, lots of love. And so yeah, it's kind of like good that I do have them understanding me. But I, you know, I'm asexual and I'm proud to be asexual to whoever. And some people don't understand it. Like my best female friend I've had, she was uncomfortable with it when I first told her for quite a long time, probably about a year, I would say. I don't think she totally understands it even now, but, you know, she's very supportive now. Like, you know, she says stuff like, you know, now's the time, it's a modern age for you to get your voice out, Sandra. So that's nice. So yeah. But yes, James is incredible. So also it's gone to all these national radio stations. So look at all these radio stations. So it's gone to 18 AM FM terrestrial radio stations like Washington, DC, Tampa, Las Vegas, Macon, Lancaster, Boulder, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, Long Beach, Newport, Richie, The Villages, Colorado Springs, Jacksonville, Rocky Hill. Then Radio Public, it's streaming on podparadise.com, Player FM, Overcast FM, Radio Vibe, spelled VYBE, AM FM, 247, Amazon Alexa Echo, woohoo! Archived on podcasting platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Google Play. We've gone through some of these already. The Blueberry, spelt without the E, Tunown, Spreaker. That's a very interesting one. Spreaker. So yeah. Pocket Cast, Podbean, Mixcloud, Deezer, Audible, JioSavan, Podcast Index, Garner, Amazon Music, on all other podcasting platforms. If I pronounce everything, if I pronounced anything wrong, I do apologize. And then digitally, it's on Roku, people. Roku TV is amazing. So Roku, it's on World TV. We're getting asexuality on TV, people. TV. So yes, Roku, World TV, Dish TV, YouTube, of course, Google TV, other network stations. Inclusion. We like to be inclusive of asexuality. So this is really good. And these are obviously other episodes that James has done with other people. James is incredible, like I said. So look at all the podcasts he has, but I'm so honored to be on his show. So I got on there because I'm studying with a company called Blue Talks. I'm studying public speaking online. I'm doing 3 speaking programs with them. One is the TEDx masterclass. One is a speaking program. And the other is the authorpreneurship, speakerpreneurship masterclass. I'm doing 3 online courses. I'm speaking for Blue Talks as well at Oxford University next month, which I am talking about asexuality in as part of the talk, although the talk's about how to reinvent yourself to become your future self. But I talk about the present day of where I am now on this show, which has had over 500,000 views. It's had over 600,000 views actually, which is incredible. Obviously, best-selling author now and stuff like that. So I'm talking about where I am now and where I used to be, you know, like age 10, like sad, very depressed child, lonely. You know, I was really unhappy as a child, you know, and I was introverted. And so I've transformed myself like loads over the years to become my best future self, like on multiple times, to be able to do the show now. Like, this is my pride and joy, being able to help asexuals. Like, nothing is more important than writing books that change lives, because writing, like, is my first passion followed by very closely by asexuality. They go hand in hand, because obviously I write books for asexuals. Those are my two favorite things to do. If I don't write, my soul dies, so I have to write, you know. And asexuality is just like something I feel very strongly about, that I want to get recognized globally as a sexual orientation. It's so right, so no asexual has to live in fear of ridicule ever again. It's really important to me that I do it while I'm here on planet Earth living this life now. Anyway, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for watching the show, and do comment in the comments below what you thought of the episode, and you know, your views on it. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an episode, and grab your copy of Asexual Perspectives on Amazon. So yeah, take care. Love you lots. See you soon. Don't forget to share this video with anyone you think may benefit from it. Lots of love. Bye.